Breaking news. Kevin Stefanski is out, fired on the spot. And the moment Shedeur Sanders finally got the start, Andrew Berry just got a massive promotion that has the entire NFL stunned. What just happened inside the Browns facility is the biggest power shift Cleveland has seen in years.
Right now,
the big news with the Cleveland Browns today. Paul DePodesta, Chief Strategy Officer, is leaving the team to join the Colorado Rockies of Major League Baseball, owners of the worst record in the MLB this year, as the head of their baseball operations. You'll recall DePodesta had his roots in Major League Baseball, starting way back when with the Cleveland Indians, also was general manager of the LA Dodgers and also the New York Mets. In the NFL, DePodesta was a fish out of water. While he improved many departments in the organization, mostly the analytics department, which the Browns have built into the biggest in the NFL, he presided over some of the organization's worst years. He was much to do with the 1-31 record of Hugh Jackson as head coach. He also had to have something to do with the monstrous trade for Deshaun Watson, which Jimmy Haslam termed a big swing and a miss. On the positive side, you got to give DePodesta credit for marrying Andrew Berry as general manager and Kevin Stefanski as coach.
The Cleveland Browns just dropped a nuclear bomb that nobody saw coming. Andrew Berry is about to become the most powerful man in Cleveland football, stepping into a president role right below Jimmy Haslam himself. And here's the kicker. Kevin Stefanski's days, they might be numbered. While the entire NFL world is buzzing about Shedeur Sanders potentially being the starter for the 2026 season, a massive power shift is happening behind closed doors that changes everything. Paul DePodesta just walked out the door, staffers are getting fired left and right, and the house is being completely cleaned. But what does this mean for Shedeur's future in Cleveland? Buckle up, because what I'm about to reveal shows that Andrew Berry and Jimmy Haslam are closer than anyone thought. And that connection might just be Shedeur's golden ticket to becoming the franchise quarterback Cleveland has been desperately searching for.
About to get real in Cleveland, dog. So this was Riz today.
As the team president, I don't want Andrew Berry anywhere in this building. Why? Because he's done such a good job? We're going to make him the president of the team? That's frightening.
He drafted.
I agree that this creates the ability to restructure your football team. I have yet to. I want to see it before I get all excited. Tony Grossi said something about Andrew Berry as the team president.
Now, there's another clip I want to show you guys too. Now, these two clips right here are kind of long, so. This was on 92 The Fan. It's two clips that I'm going to show you guys before we come to the ultimate end clip, and that is DePodesta.
I don't know if they're going to move on from Kevin. With this move,
look, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. What's happening in Cleveland right now is straight up wild. We're talking about a complete organizational overhaul that's happening in real time. And if you're a Shedeur Sanders fan like most of us, you need to pay attention, because this could be the best thing that ever happened to his NFL career.
Really, first and foremost, is to not only help us create, but also implement that shared vision, and then ultimately make sure that we stick to it, really relentlessly. And that's really my role. So I look at all the processes that are within a football operation, and whether that's hiring someone, whether that's how we do scouting, whether it's how we, look at things, with numbers. I sort of dig into all those processes and make sure that they align with our vision, and that we all as a group continue to stay aligned and be on the same page as Kevin said.
So you'll be involved in the draft?
Sure.
And what role will you play in the draft?
A process-oriented role. I'm not going to pick the players, but I am going to try to make sure that the players we do pick, again, align with our vision of what we believe is a winning franchise. I've had the opportunity to be around some great organizations, in multiple sports. And one thing that's pretty clear across all of them is that they all have an identity, right? A way. You hear about the Patriot way, or back in the.
Let me break down what's really going on here. And trust me, this goes way deeper than what the mainstream media is telling you. So first things first, Paul DePodesta is out. Gone. Dipped. The chief strategy officer, who's been with the Browns through some of their darkest and brightest moments, just packed his bags and headed to the Colorado Rockies. Now, you might be thinking, okay, so what? People leave teams all the time. But here's where it gets juicy. DePodesta wasn't just some random executive. This dude was involved in everything. He was there during the brutal 1-31 record under Hugh Jackson. He had his fingerprints all over that disastrous Deshaun Watson trade that Jimmy Haslam himself called a big swing and a miss. But he also gets credit for bringing Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski together back in 2020, and they made the playoffs twice in 5 seasons. But now he's gone. And when a guy like that leaves, it's not just a resignation. It's a sign that something major is shifting in the organization. And this is where things get absolutely insane for Shedeur Sanders and his future. Multiple sources in Cleveland are now reporting that Andrew Berry is about to get promoted. We're not talking about a small raise or a fancy new title on his business card. We're talking about Andrew Berry potentially becoming the president of the Cleveland Browns. Let that sink in for a second. President. That means he'd be sitting right below Jimmy Haslam in the organizational hierarchy. That's essentially making him the second most powerful person in the entire franchise. Now, why does this matter for Shedeur? Because Andrew Berry is the guy who wanted him in the first place. When all the draft speculation was happening and everyone was wondering if Cleveland was really going to take a shot at Shedeur, there was always this question mark about whether it was Jimmy Haslam's call or Andrew Berry's call. During press conferences, Berry looked like maybe he wasn't fully on board with every decision being made. There was that tension, that uncertainty about who was really calling the shots. But now we're getting clarity. The boots on the ground in Cleveland are saying that Jimmy Haslam and Andrew Berry are tight, like hella close. They're aligned. They're on the same page. And if Andrew Berry is about to become president, that tells you everything you need to know about who Jimmy Haslam trusts to build this franchise. And here's the beautiful part. If Andrew Berry wanted Shedeur in that draft situation, and now he's getting more power, not less, what do you think that means for Shedeur's future as the starter in 2026? I'll tell you what it means. It means Shedeur Sanders is about to have one of the most powerful executives in the NFL fighting for him, protecting him, and building an entire organization around him. But hold up, because not everyone in Cleveland is happy about this. Cleveland media personality Rizzo came out swinging this morning on his podcast, and he was not holding back. The guy basically said he doesn't want Andrew Berry anywhere near the building, and the idea of promoting him to president is frightening. He's questioning whether Berry has done a good enough job to deserve this kind of promotion. And look, I get it. The Browns haven't exactly been world beaters under Berry's tenure as GM. They've made some questionable moves. The Deshaun Watson situation has been a disaster from a performance standpoint. There are legitimate questions about roster construction and draft picks. But here's what the critics are missing, and this is where Shedeur Sanders fans need to wake up and pay attention. Jimmy Haslam doesn't promote people he doesn't trust. He doesn't give more power to executives he's not fully aligned with. The fact that Berry is apparently getting bumped up to president means Haslam believes in his vision for the franchise. And if that vision includes Shedeur Sanders as the franchise quarterback, then we're looking at a situation where the two most powerful people in the organization are all in on making this work. Tony Grossi, another Cleveland media insider, was one of the first to put this information out there yesterday. He's been covering the Browns for years, and he's saying that this restructuring is real. It's happening. And it's going to have massive implications for everyone involved, especially Kevin Stefansky. Because here's the million-dollar question that nobody wants to ask out loud. If Andrew Berry is getting promoted to president, what happens to Kevin Stefansky? The morning shows in Cleveland have been going crazy trying to figure this out. On 92.3 The Fan, they spent 2.5 hours debating whether this move makes it more likely or less likely that Stefansky gets fired. And the consensus seems to be shifting towards something interesting. Initially, when the DePodesta news broke, everyone thought it was the writing on the wall. Like, oh, here we go. They're cleaning house. Stefansky's gone. Berry might be gone too. Complete reset. But after thinking about it more deeply, some analysts are now saying this might actually mean Berry and Stefansky both stay because Jimmy Haslam wants to work with people he's comfortable with. But I'm calling BS on that take. Here's why. Kevin Stefanski has been a problem. That's what people in Cleveland are saying. He hasn't been able to maximize the talent on this roster. The offense has been inconsistent. The quarterback situation has been mismanaged. And most importantly, if Shedeur Sanders is going to be the starter in 2026, do you really think Kevin Stefanski is the right coach to develop him? Think about it. Stefanski's offensive system hasn't exactly been quarterback-friendly for young signal callers trying to establish themselves. If you're building around Shedeur, a guy with elite accuracy, incredible football IQ, and the ability to make every throw on the field, you need a coach who's going to unleash him, not hold him back with conservative play calling and outdated schemes. And this is where Andrew Berry's promotion becomes even more critical. If Berry is president, he has the authority to make coaching changes without needing approval from multiple layers of bureaucracy. He can say, Kevin, we appreciate everything you've done, but we're going in a different direction. We're building around Shedeur Sanders, and we need a coach who can maximize his potential. Some analysts are speculating that even if Berry gets promoted to president, they might bring in Glenn Cook as the new GM. Cook has interviewed for general manager roles before, and he's already deeply embedded in the organization. The theory is that Berry moves up, Cook takes over as GM, and they both work together to build around Shedeur while potentially moving on from Stefanski. And honestly, that makes the most sense to me. Because here's what we know for sure. The Browns are cleaning house. DePodesta is gone. Staffers are getting fired or quitting. There's a complete organizational restructuring happening. And whenever you see this kind of shakeup in the NFL, it means ownership is unhappy with the current direction and wants to take a big swing at fixing it. Now, Paul DePodesta gave an interview when he was still with the Browns where he talked about his role in creating the Browns way, having a shared vision, implementing processes that align with that vision, and making sure everyone stays on the same page. But clearly something went wrong. The vision wasn't working. The processes weren't producing wins. And now he's out, heading to the Colorado Rockies, which, by the way, had the worst record in Major League Baseball this year. Good luck with that, Paul. But his exit creates opportunity. It creates space for Andrew Berry to implement his vision without having to navigate around DePodesta's analytics-heavy approach. And if Andrew Berry's vision includes Shedeur Sanders as the centerpiece, then we're about to see the Browns go all in on building around a young franchise quarterback for the first time in decades. Here's what nobody is talking about enough. Shedeur Sanders is exactly the type of quarterback that fits what modern NFL offenses need. He's got the arm talent. He's got the processing speed. He's got the leadership qualities. He's got the pedigree. And most importantly, he's got the confidence and mental toughness to handle playing in a pressure cooker like Cleveland. The Browns haven't had a legitimate franchise quarterback since, well, ever really. They've cycled through Baker Mayfield, who showed flashes but couldn't sustain it. They went all in on Deshaun Watson, and that's been a disaster. They've tried stopgaps and veterans and late-round picks, and nothing has worked. But Shedeur is different. He's not a project. He's not a reclamation project. He's a polished, pro-ready quarterback who could step in and immediately elevate the entire offense. And if Andrew Berry is about to become president of the team with full authority to shape the roster and coaching staff, then Shedeur is walking into the perfect situation. Think about what Berry could do with that kind of power. He could fire Stefanski and bring in an offensive-minded head coach who specializes in developing young quarterbacks. He could rebuild the offensive line to give Shedeur maximum protection. He could add weapons at receiver and tight end to give him elite playmakers. He could construct the entire roster around maximizing Shedeur's strengths. And here's the thing that should have every Shedeur Sanders fan hyped. The timeline lines up perfectly. The 2026 season is when Shedeur would realistically be ready to take over as a starter if he gets drafted in 2025. That gives him a full offseason to learn the system, build chemistry with his teammates, and prepare for the NFL level. And by that point, Andrew Berry will have had time to fully implement his restructured organization, bring in his coaching staff, and build a roster specifically designed to support a young franchise quarterback. This is literally the dream scenario for Shedeur Sanders. He's not walking into a dysfunctional mess with no plan. He's not being thrown to the wolves behind a terrible offensive line with no weapons. He's walking into an organization that's being rebuilt from the ground up by the guy who wanted him in the first place.
Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but what if all Andrew Berry's media criticism, what if he's not actually good at his job? And look, those are fair questions. Andrew Berry has made mistakes. Every GM has. But the fact that Jimmy Haslam is doubling down on him, giving him more power instead of less, tells you that ownership believes in his process and his vision. And let's be real, a lot of Berry's struggles have been because of circumstances beyond his control. The Deshaun Watson trade? That had Jimmy Haslam's fingerprints all over that. Everyone knows ownership pushed hard for that move. The coaching situation with Stefanski? That's been a mixed bag, but it's hard to evaluate a GM's success when the head coach isn't getting the most out of the roster. But if Andrew Berry gets promoted to president and has full autonomy to make decisions, then we'll finally see what he can really do when he's not being second-guessed